Hello and welcome once more to Red Gaming Tech. My name is Marta. Today is still the 24th of February, and this time I have a little bit of discussion courtesy of some comments made by the Telltale CEO Kevin Bruner, and basically saying that games will apparently shape the future of pop culture. And he recently spoke out in a new interview with Digital Trends and went on to describe gamers as first-class media consumers, and said that coming home to play video games rather than watch TV is, quote, not weird anymore. His full statement is rather interesting and reads as such, and of course I will be discussing a little bit afterwards. He said, quote, "That's becoming normal. It's not so ostracized to be a gamer anymore. I think it's going to happen really fast where people just don't categorize themselves as much. They're just media consumers, whatever that means. It's a beautiful time for gamers because we really get to shape the future of pop culture." And he went on to, express his respect for storytellers in film, TV and literature, but went on to say that gaming is where the action is. He said, quote, "Films and novels and television aren't going away, but all the stuff's going to be happening on your game console, on your tablet. That's where the awesome stuff is going to be. Games are huge, right? But they're not mass market huge, where all the great stories and the great storytellers work." And he went on to say, well, if you take 10 people at random on the street and mention Game of Thrones, they'll probably know what you mean, but not so many would have heard of recent game releases, which is a fair enough point. And he actually said, quote, "So the games industry is huge, and video games are huge, but storytelling at large, television, films, novels, is way bigger than games. And that was a big thing of moving to these non-console PC platforms, places where people are consuming stories. Tablets are real interesting because a lot of people who would never say that they're gamers, but they stream Netflix on their smart TV and they'll play Tiger Woods golf on their tablet, but they're not gamers, they're not techies. They would never go out and buy a game consoles." And yeah, I think this is a really interesting discussion to be had, and to be honest, I think there's a larger video where I should really do my research and dissect this. This is going to be a fairly quick opinions piece for the moment, but it's sparked my interest somewhat, so I think I'm definitely going to do a larger piece on this at some point. But I definitely think that, with any luck, this is where gaming is headed, where it's being much more widely accepted. Like a few years ago, not all that long ago really, like when I was in, say, I don't know, upper school or whatever, it would have been seen as a bit weird to be a huge gamer. And you probably would have been classified as a nerd or whatever, but now it's very much becoming more and more popular with the rise of mobile gaming and whatnot, and more people being introduced to gaming as a hobby. And more people are becoming educated that yes, there are violent games, but there are also games that tell amazing stories, and some of them are also violent. You know, a bit of game being violent doesn't mean that it doesn't have something valid to say. It just means it also happens to be violent. Say, for example, the film Irreversible. Very good, by the way. Watch it, but not if you're easily upset, because that is one disturbing film. That is one of the most violent films I've seen. And yet, it also tells a really interesting story. Is it story any less because it's violent? No, of course not. And that same goes for any violent game. Just because it's violent doesn't mean its story can't be interesting, its characters can't be intriguing, and I think people are starting to slowly realise this. Gaming still has a long way to go in terms of how it's viewed by non-gamers, you know, for want of a better phrase, you know, the general public or whatever. You know, you could talk about a violent film or any film with anybody, probably without any comments. They might go, oh, I don't like that film, whatever, but that's the end of it. Whereas if you talk about certain games, certain people are still going to have issues, and that's going to stay for a while, unfortunately. Films have been around way longer than gaming. But gaming is coming on in leaps and bounds and is very much becoming a more respected medium, and being recognised, quite rightly so, as a place where art is made and where great stories are told, which is exactly what we want to happen. You know, we all identify as gamers, you know, hardcore, whatever, casual, doesn't matter. But perhaps in the future, when most people play games, or way more people play games than do now, will we still identify as that? Probably, but it'll become way more accepted, and the gaming industry will not be subject to all these, you know, bullshit accusations of you violate our children or whatever. Some new scapegoat will come along and they'll start pointing their finger at that, and gaming can finally move away from all that and start becoming, well, the sister of film. And I don't mean that in films they should become more cinematic or anything like that. Don't be silly. I want games to remain games. I just mean that it will gain the same level of respect. That's what I mean. So yeah, this is a future that I'd like to see. I don't think there's anything wrong with identifying as a gamer. I identify as a gamer. I also identify as a cosplayer, commentator, general human being, you know. But it would be nice to see a world in a few years' time where gaming just isn't as ostracized as it is now. It's come a long way since I was in school, a long way, but it still is victim to finger pointing and shrill shrieking in certain newspapers and whatever, and you know, frightened housewives not understanding and buying 18 rated games for their 10-year-old or whatever, which just still makes me shake my head, but whatever. But eventually we will get past that, and we will get to this point that Bruner is talking about, and well, frankly, I can't wait. Anyway, sorry for this rather long and rambling piece, but as I said, it's kind of sparked my imagination, and I'd like to do a bigger piece on it later on. If you're interested, do let me know in the comments below, and also feel free to discuss anything I've talked about here. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.